And we are live. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining our live stream. Welcome to IT Career in Australia YouTube channel. So today's topic is what does a change manager do in IT industry? So again, thank you so much for finding some time this evening to join us. I know it's so close for the long weekend, Easter almost here. I don't blame you if you're already in the holiday mode, but I still hope that I'll see a few people tonight participating. So please make sure if you're joining us to introduce yourselves in the comments. Let us know what you do and join our conversation with your comments and questions. So if you're new to my live streams, I'm Jana Martins. I've recently entered IT industry myself. So I'm passionate about learning more and also shared my new findings with you on this YouTube channel. So as I mentioned, tonight we're going to talk about what does a change manager do in IT industry, and Brella is going to share her story and her experience, give us some overview of the change management role. Why do we need the change management? What kind of components we need to consider when we're thinking about change management, and maybe how you can consider to move in the change management role yourself. So interesting topic. There is not that many information about change management out there. So make sure to share and tag your colleagues that need to hear this. So before I pass it on to Brella to introduce herself, I just want to remind you that we're going live on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube. So if you want to watch replays, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, IT Career in Australia. So I'm going there live every Wednesday night at 5:30 p.m. Melbourne time with various experts from my network, and we're talking about all the things IT career, job search, and specifics of IT industry in Australia. So you can also join my meetup group to make sure you get notifications about the upcoming events. So hopefully we'll have some live events in the near future as well. Since the coronavirus kind of hopefully coming down, so and it'll be easier to organize those events as well. So please don't be shy. Ask questions during our live stream. We will try to answer all your questions from all the platforms. Ask as many questions as you want, and the most active participants will receive a nice surprise at the end of the stream. And also, I said also like 10 times. Anyway, and also use this live stream as your opportunity not only to learn new information, but also network with people in the industry. So we have a few people saying hi. Shafali is here. Smail here. Shafali is working as a business analyst. Thank you for joining us. And that's enough of me. Passing on to Brella to introduce herself. Please.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brella Altman. You can find me on LinkedIn as Brella Lee. Thank you, Jana, for inviting me this evening to discuss change management. It's something I'm quite passionate about. And I want to thank everybody who's taken the time this evening. I know that we're right before a long holiday. So thank you for coming on or watching later on. For those of you interested in change management, please reach out. It's something I can talk about for much longer than the 45 minutes we have tonight.
Yes, so we're really strict on the time here. So if you guys want to have time to, get all your questions answered, obviously Brella is always happy to take it offline as well. So, okay, let's get straight into it. So guys, if you haven't introduced yourself in the comments, please do so, because again, if you don't introduce yourself in the comments, I don't know that you're here. Okay, so and I don't know who I'm talking with. So make sure to say hi in the comments. Just even say hi, and that's it. So Brella, first usual question, I guess. Just can you give us a bit of an overview about yourself, your journey, your career journey, and why change management? Why you here tonight? Basically, talk about change management. What brought you to that role?
On this journey?
Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. So, it was about 20 years ago, a little over 20 years ago now. I started my career back in Seattle, and I started as a project manager. So, I did the whole very traditional project management in IT through the dot-com boom and all of that in Seattle. Worked for some really exciting companies. And the one thing that really stuck out to me was the fact that that as a project manager, we were implementing systems for people, and the people were not included in the entire journey. The entire thing was all about budgets and schedules and delivery on time and working people to death. So it was a bit mad. And I moved on through my career into delivery management. And delivery management had a little bit more focus on people, which was great. So all of a sudden we're starting to kind of bring them into the journey. But at that point in time, it was, we trained people, which was, it's like, we trained people. We've done our duty to the people. And then from there, I moved more into the agile coaching world. So I worked as a scrum master, I worked in delivery, and I did agile coaching. And that was really the highlight of starting to bring people into the journey of IT projects. But that was more around processes and ways of working and how that impacted people and how we get them working in a certain way. And then from there, I think I got a bit burned out. I got a bit burned out because, it was all about schedules and budgets. And I was like, oh my goodness. And just the stories I would hear about people getting so frustrated and leaving and it really struck me. So I took some time out and I actually went in to study life coaching. So I took a break from IT completely. And I really delved into the world of life coaching, neuroscience, why people do what they do, the fear factor, why people resist change. And that really then brought me back into, what elements, what in my career path of project delivery IT, what in my career path has elements of this? And change management kept coming up in my searches. So I was like, okay, I need to start shifting towards change management because more I learned about it. It's IT, it's projects, but it's people. It's how people are impacted by these projects. And anytime we're doing any sort of a project, whether it be a new tech system or data or security or agile, it's all impacting people, and that's kind of the forgotten element in the world of what we do in IT. So that's what brought me to change management, because I just love people, I guess.
And I guess that's one of the main points, this like resistance to change. On the paper everything can looks great, but when we take the human factor and we take in consideration that fear that no one put on paper, that's where the problem's starting to appear. So
I don't think people there's this concept that people resist change. And I don't really believe that they resist change. And that's kind of one of the things we're going through by coaching training, is that people don't resist change. We do change every single day. We change our clothes, we change our hair color, we change what we like on telly. We're constantly changing. That's just the nature of being human. What people resist is being changed. So like if you think back on like your worst relationship, that feeling of having to change and not being a part of it. So when we bring people on the journey of change, when we include them in the design of the change and the implementation of the change, all of a sudden, people aren't resisting. They're actually feeling like, hey, I'm not actually being forced to change. I'm actually a part of this.
100%. They're being included. So quite a few people joining us, Brella, as well. Raman is Senior IT Manager, looking to better understand that role. Raman, you're in the right place. It's exactly what we're going to talk.
Absolutely in the right place. Yeah. Welcome.
Javad is here. TPM, I believe, it's Technical Project Management.
That
2
would be my
p.m.?
guess.
Yeah, that would be my guess as well. Jawad, tell us if we guessed your role correctly. And here we go. Smail is asking, Brella, give us a definition of what change management is. And that's exactly was my first question to you, Brella. Okay, so what is actually change management?
So change management it's the function. Yeah. So what is change management? Perfect slide there. So it's change management is ensuring that people are ready, willing, and able to take on a change. So, and different companies change around these acronyms. You'll see it being shown as WAR. You'll see it being shown as various different things. But basically, we're looking at making sure that people are ready, willing, and able. So if you take on like a tech change, you're changing systems, for example, from one system to another. We're making sure that people are ready. They know what's coming. They know the vision of this big project. They understand it. They get the why. They see the benefits. And they're totally on board with this. So that's really the first step. We start with what the vision is. And then are they willing? Do they really buy into this? Are they on this journey? Have they been included in this journey? Or are they sitting in a space of fear? When we talk about change, you mentioned the fear factor. If it hasn't been communicated well up front, if they don't understand the vision and the purpose and the benefits of the change, then they're going to be sitting there wondering, is my job in danger? That's the first thing, from a very primal perspective we go to, how is this going to impact me? So making sure that they're really willing to join in and making sure they're being included in. And then are they able? So do they have the training? What training do they need? How do they have the skills? Do they have the capabilities? If they don't, what do we need to do in order to make them able to take on the change? And most importantly, with able, the one thing I see that a lot of companies seem to forget is the time when we make a change. There's time needed to get up to speed. So there's going to be a dip in productivity. So do people have the time and the space in order to commit to the change? And if they don't, that's just going to add to their stress, their anxiety, and their resistance. So it's really that person that comes in, does everything they need to do, take people on the journey. So whether it be a tech change or a process change, or agile change, making sure that they're ready, willing, and able to actually take on that change so it's successful.
I know when you were talking about the change and the resistance of change, I've been thinking about my computer asking me to upgrade to Windows 11, and I'm like, I'm not ready. I didn't ask for it. Why?
That's sort of perfect example of people don't want to be forced to change. They don't want the change happening to them. They want to do it when they're ready. So
I don't have time.
No,
I don't want to do it on my work day. I don't want
What's the purpose of this? Why are you doing it?
That's like, I don't know, first thing that comes in my mind, and I'm thinking about the forced change.
Yeah, exactly.
One changes buttons around. I didn't want it.
Exactly. It's like, what focus group did you go to when you changed my what was it back in the day when they had Word and the little clip assistant? It's like,
yep.
You didn't talk to me about removing that. That was my entertainment for the day.
100%. So change management. So okay, so we have a bit of a definition there. So my next question, I guess, would be, is it a new role? Is it something, because people confuse sometimes, the change management, what they do, because it seems like it's some new role that just comes up recently. So how long the change management actually been around and, been created?
Well, the discipline itself hasn't been around for a very long time, So I was reading a really interesting article not that long ago, and the article was basically titled, "Whose Job is the People Anyway?" So historically speaking, if the people were included in a change, it was included by project managers, delivery managers, and then later on when Agile became a big thing, Agile coaches really. But they didn't have the tools and techniques. So if we look at, say, pre-1990s, which, gosh, that's about 30 years ago now, actually. That was more of the foundational period. So we had more some of the psychology behind it, but it wasn't really being practiced. And then if we move into, so that's pre-1990s, and we move into the 1990s, and that's when we start seeing more, it becomes more obvious that this needs to happen because projects were failing, and they were starting to ask why projects are failing. And then in the 2000s, it's become more formalized. So we now have APMG International, which created the Change Management Book of Knowledge. And that's a very large book of tools and techniques that are taking into a lot of the psychology of, how teams form. A lot of people in the project world will be familiar with forming, norming, storming, performing models. So it takes a lot of those sorts of models into place. And then it was just around 2013, 2014 that it's really become a defined discipline. So as before, it was models and frameworks and tools that really started to come alive in the early 2000s. It's now become a formal discipline, and the knowledge that, hey, project managers, if they're doing budgets and schedules and time and all of that, to add this piece on and to do it correctly, they just don't have the skills and also the knowledge to do it and the time to do it to its full extent. So it is relatively new, and especially here in Australia. It's Australia, if you can tell from my accent, I'm not from here, but here in Australia, it tends to be lagging just slightly behind some of, say the UK and the US. And so I've really seen it actually explode in the past 5 years. And I think that that COVID and the change that COVID has brought has really accelerated that whole need for change, because we've all been going through a lot of forced change. And it's impacted our work environments and our home environments. And so it's really come into fruition, especially in Australia, just very recently.
And I do actually believe that people became a bit more, I guess, less resistance for the change in the last 2 years, because everyone realized you can't, predict the future. So you can't be like always in this comfort zone. The change is coming all the time. And I think like every year the changes comes quicker and quicker. So people get, I guess, maybe a bit less resistance. Yeah.
About 8 years ago, I was looking, through Seek and LinkedIn, and to find a change management role was very difficult to find. They were, you could find it through maybe networking, but you really couldn't find the role. And now with this great realignment, I've been monitoring the different sorts of roles that are out there: project management, delivery, and change management. And change management is outnumbering, from what I see, change management's outnumbering delivery. So I think that it's a real huge realization that this is something that needs to be included. And there's going to be this journey of how companies now include change management into the whole grand scheme of things.
And I guess you already mentioned that, we need the change management, I guess the need of change management comes from the realization that some projects keep failing and stuff. But I guess why we need change management in the organization now? What's I guess the main reasons?
Well, I think if you look at, any organization is made up of people. So, because organizations are made up of people and change is all about people, it surprises me that it's taken so long for it to come about. So when we look at statistics, 70 to 85% of all projects fail because they haven't had change management. Now, when we say fail, they haven't met their desired outcome. So we're looking at things like it's delivered on time, it's delivered the budget, and those are two items that are actually pretty much in the responsibility of the project manager's world or delivery manager's world. And then you have things like technical objectives are not achieved. So that is very much influenced or can be influenced by change management through, identifying who's impacted and what's the training that's needed. So business objectives aren't achieved. So that's your why and your what and your dollar amounts. If people aren't on board with that change and they don't embed that change, then the ROI that businesses are looking to achieve by, say, putting in a new system aren't realized. And they wonder why it's not realized. It's because their people have found various hacks and workarounds and other such things because they weren't involved in that change. And then the human objectives, right now there's like this massive thing around psychological safety in companies and making sure that people feel valued and included. And we now have this hybrid of work home, work in office. So really that human objective, making sure that people feel like they're feeling a part of the change, as well as that, they're feeling valued, they're feeling like they know what, they know what to do. Especially when we talk about technology, you look at it's like, oh, what does this button do? I don't know. There's a lot of training and processes. Like any sort of tech is also going to bring down process changes and realignment changes. I mean, there's so much that happens anytime in IT when we coming from a delivery, the tech guys on the call will recognize the fact, that you have a bug in the system, and it's the same sort of thing, a bug in the system, and it's like, oh dear, now what? It's the same thing with people. If there's a bug in anything that we're not helping them work through, the frustration, the stress and anxiety that goes with that, that human impact can really make or break whether or not a change is successful or not.
And we just have a few questions, I guess. Let's have a look at the comments quickly. Smail is saying, oh, God always happen when we automate any process. People are so freaked. Many resist the change. I always thought it's just the fear of coming out of the comfort zone and the usual things.
Yeah, absolutely. And with that, it's usually because and automation's always great, and especially when it comes to automating data, and reporting and all that kind of stuff. That the fact that people see automation as in what is it? What was that movie with the robot? There's lots of movies with robots. The robots are going to be taking over my job if we automate everything. But the fact is that if we work with the people and we bring them on that journey, when we automate them and say, hey, by automating this now gives you time to do X, Y, Z. It's that the benefits, explaining to them what is the benefits of that change. And then all of a sudden they realize that, hey, by automating that piece, I don't actually have to worry about it anymore. I can now continue to progress my career in this direction. I have now time to do that. Whereas most people get so bogged down into BAU that they forget, business as usual, that they forget that if they just had time, how they could progress. So making sure that those benefits are really highlighted to the people who are impacted, that will help with that resistance to the change.
James also has a question. You kind of touch on it just before when we were talking about the COVID. How has the remote working impacted change management on a day-to-day kind of basis?
So from a change manager's perspective, the thing with the change, well, from one perspective, it's made it more difficult in the fact that, projects are running and a change manager doesn't necessarily know what's going on, and making sure that, we're included, and that we can assist people. So, and also too, it's that face-to-face time. So as a change manager, especially one with a coaching background, is there's a lot of, when you're dealing with change and that impacts on people, there's a lot you can get from talking with them one-to-one. The body language, the voice, the when they roll their eyes, the how the, just the clenching of the teeth and all that kind of stuff. You can see, is there something going on that I need to be there to help this person? And that can be quite a bit more difficult with it being all online and remote working. But at the same time, a lot of change manager function is done through workshops. So I've found like the workshops are it's so much nicer actually being online and say using Miro, for example, and doing a workshop that way, because it was interesting. In between one of the lockdowns, I went to a workshop, and it was on client site, and everybody was in the room. And in that kind of environment, there was only 2 to 3 people speaking, because the management was right there. But then when you get online and you have a mirror board and the faces aren't there, people are actually getting involved and interacting. And so I found that was actually a lot more beneficial. So it has its pros and cons. And I think with change management, it's really highlighted the fact that that you can't just make a change without including the people, and how we go about including the people, and when we include the people. Bringing them in at the very end, that's when the frustration and the resistance of, why was I not included? This impacts my job, and I was not included in that.
And I like that you mentioned, I guess, 2 sides of the stories. Yes, so on one side might be harder to receive this feedback from people because you don't see them face to face, and you might miss this like a little conversation, the coffee conversations, coffee chat and office chats. But yeah, some people way more comfortable to express themselves than they just typing online.
But yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and some people, both sides.
Both sides, but then people can type sometimes whatever they want, and you can see the expressions, and you don't know if they meant it or not.
There is that.
So definitely 2 sides of the story. Guys, if actually would be nice if anyone who's listening to us tonight have any examples of maybe you experienced something like that. Maybe your company introduced some change and didn't tell you anything about it, and it was just a nice surprise, like
nice
suddenly
surprise.
I open my computer and it's already Windows 11 there, and I didn't sign up for that. So if you have any story like that, please briefly share in the comments. Will be interesting to see, if it's happened to you before, and you just feel like that you haven't been included in some decision that really impacted your day-to-day job.
And one of the big things, like with COVID, we all went working from home. And what does that actually mean? Do I need to, as an individual, how do I need to make sure that I have my own desk, or is the company going to give me, financial support for that? What about my Wi-Fi? What about my phone? As you say, you're not in the office having the chats, that kind of support. Something as simple as a process changing, we're gonna, everybody needs to be logged on or at a certain time, or, whatever it may be. All of a sudden, that change was very, very quick. And I don't think there was a lot of response to, a lot of companies didn't really work through, how are we going to support our people through this massive change, working from home? And yeah, so that was a bit of, at the beginning at least, a bit of pain.
Jason's here. Yes, Windows has updated my computer during a meeting. Not fun. So it did happen with
Oh,
some.
good old Windows, being forced to change.
I'm still resisting. I'm still resisting. Still resisting. See how long I will last. Okay, so I think we already mentioned it a little bit regarding project management and change management, that they come hand to hand. But I guess what's the difference? Yes, so we always have project management. I guess probably change management in a way was part of the project management role. So now we have this separate change manager role. So how do they communicate? What's the difference between, I guess, project manager and change manager itself?
Yeah, so it wasn't, just to clarify, it wasn't
Mm-hmm.
a part of the project manager's job, but a project manager that understood people would make it a part of their job, because otherwise it wasn't going to get done. So
Yeah.
like from a project management perspective, a project management deals with the technical side of a project. So they deal with the processes, the budgets, the design, the delivery, on time, exactly that. So they have their flow, whether you're using an agile format or a waterfall format, they still have the same flow. They're focused on the technical side of the delivery. Where change management comes in, they feed that missing little piece, that people side. So they help work through what are the process changes. So we do an as is to current state, and then the gap analysis. So what is the impacts of people with the processes, with the tech? How do we help them on the journey? When and where can we include them in it? How do we train them? How do we communicate with them? And just really making sure that by the end of that, so we go through a very, we plan, we manage, and we reinforce. So the reinforce is pretty much that post-closure, making sure that the change is sustainable over time and that people feel comfortable with it. So that's the ongoing training, ongoing communication, and just making sure that so once something goes live, it's not just, for a change manager, it's not just over. It continues on to make sure that, hey, we're here to support you. We're here to help you through, what do you need? What are you finding difficult? Are you liking the system? Do we need to, are there enhancements that we need to start looking at and getting into the backlog, that would, because your life is just now a living hell, or, It's like, I used to be able to do this really easily and now I can't. It's like, okay, well, let me go talk to the product owner. Yeah, so change management doesn't just end when something goes live.
And I think you have a picture here.
Yeah, so I mean,
That's
it's just like the
showing
whole,
that.
climate change versus COVID. If for those, sorry if there's any people who don't like that analogy, but we have a project, and a project is small compared to the change management function, in order to, that's the people function of that project. So the impacts of that, and it can be so vast, not just training, because in the old days it was just training, but people could be going through a very difficult time in their personal life that's going to impact their work life. So from a change management perspective, we're looking at, hey, what are those impacts? And when we start seeing that fear and resistance and angst and stress and anxiety start picking in, we need to be there in order to support the people through that. So you've got to change, and from a project management perspective, it's really well defined, or can be well defined, but people are complex. From all the different levels of stakeholders, whether it be a C-suite level or a client, a stakeholder in the change management world is defined as anyone directly or indirectly impacted by a change. So that can be pretty much anybody. So, it's the people function's a lot larger than any, end-to-end defined tech project.
And Jason just have a clarifying question here. So change manager is service rather than the product.
Sorry? Oh, Jason, sorry.
Yeah.
So change
Yeah.
manager is service rather than product. Yes. Depends upon what you mean by product. So if you're changing a product, then that's a change. So yes, we would be involved. So anything that's a change, whether it be product, process, tech, data, I'm sure we can throw in a few other little things in there. Anytime there's a change, it's a value for a company to have change managers.
And I guess what are those, change management like responsibilities? What are the parts of the responsibilities of the change manager?
Yeah, so if we do so, change managers can work in parts or in more holistic. So to launch a project, we have a program or a project, strategy, vision, purpose, benefits. So that all comes from the program or a project, and then that feeds into and these are just some of the different parts of what we do as change managers. So we look at organizational readiness. And that's really looking at, we talk about organizational readiness. What we're talking about is how much change is currently going on at this point in time. Can they take on another piece of change? So I've been in several transformations when there's just so much going on that to add in one more piece of change is just going to do people's head in. We look at have they done changes in the past? If so, how'd they go? And really kind of that retro sort of aspect of, okay, what happened? How did it go? What went well? What didn't go well? How can we, make sure that we do this better? We look at things like the skills and assessments. Do they have the skills and assessments ready for this change? Is the structure correct for this change? The managers on board for this change, sponsors. And so it's all about, the organizational readiness. There's a lot that goes on there. And then we move into the stakeholder assessment and analysis. So that's really getting into who's impacted by this change, and analyzing, is it just senior management? Is it kind of a matrixed where some people fit in in two different categories, and we use that to then look at the impact assessment. So once we understand who's all impacted directly and indirectly, then we break it down and go, okay, how are they impacted? What are they impacted by? When are they impacted? What level of communication do we need to give them? What level of involvement should they have? What level of training, ongoing support. So there's a large amount of stuff that we do during impact assessments as well. And all of this too is iterative. So we don't just, do our stakeholders assessments and impact assessments. We have to iterate it over time to make sure that we are still including everybody and we're including them in at the right time. And then one of the things I see, especially here in Australia, is they see a lot of change managers just as communications. And communications is a very big part of it. But if you're bringing people on the journey, they know what's going on because they're involved. So this is too around assessing, what mediums of communication, do we have? Who's going to do the communicating? Because sometimes it's not appropriate for the change manager to do that communication. Sometimes it should be line management. Sometimes it should be senior management. If you're dealing with customers, it might be account managers. So it's really putting together that plan of what are we communicating, where are we communicating it, how are we communicating it, and that realization too that not all communication is one-way communication. So historically, things just come out in email, and companies say, "Oh, we communicated," but that doesn't provide a feedback loop. And so that's why a lot of change managers use things like workshops and interviews, discussions, and things like Slack and Yammer and those various tools in order to have that constant feedback loop to understand, where are people coming from, what is working well, what isn't, so we can pivot and change and change, as quickly as possible. And we also, through the impact assessments, we look at training and what level of training we need to do, when they need to do it, before and after the implementation, and making sure that that training is actually stuck. So there's various people learn in different ways. So like I'm a very kinesthetic visual person. Some people are very audio, focused. Some people, they just, can watch a video and they're happy. Some people want, a sandbox where they can press buttons and, in a safe environment where they're not going to blow up production, so people have different levels of learning styles too. And that's looking at, how do people learn and retain? And so really getting in with people and going, okay, well, if we're going to do this change, how are you going to be able to take it on best? And then it's the sustaining period. So the sustaining can have, we'll have comms that go out through that, but also that training and support, and really helping to understand the aspects of what's working, what isn't working. Do we need to feed into product owners and project owners for ongoing work that needs to be done? And of course, across all of this are measurements. So we're looking at things like engagement surveys, engagement in the comms, engagement on things like Slack and communications, how the training is going. So we're constantly measuring as well. So the change management function in its entirety is a very large function.
Like I just, from looking at your table here, just have a question popping in my mind in terms of how HR communicates with change management, because it seems like a lot of interconnection there in the way that some of the HR functions would be, obviously like looking after people, communicating to people. So what's the connection like? Where the change management like?
Yeah, so change managers would typically work, depending upon what the change is. So especially like if you're dealing with a change, it's going to have, say, restructure or, redundancies or any of that. Change managers working extremely closely with HR. And that's where a lot of that function would come from. And then if you're working, like we will also work very closely with, say, learning and development, if a company has that. If a company has a comms function, some companies do, smaller companies usually don't, then we'll be working with, the communications department. So depending on the change, we can be working very closely with other, departments, and in a more holistic and, team way. And that's where things like when we talk about organizational ready and stakeholder assessments and impact assessments, we're also looking at who's doing what, who's the most appropriate person. And it's not always a change manager that's going to be doing it all. They're just ones to make sure that, hey, this needs to be done. Now, am I the appropriate person to do it? Or is there somebody in the company that is more appropriate for this? So, we're a guider and a coach first, and then a doer third.
And I guess we did kind of answer Jason's question there, because Jason asks, so where the change with Agile, where the change happens all the time, how does the change manager fit in?
So they fit in through the entire process. So there's another function of change called lean change management. And it does the same sort of things, but in a much smaller, blocked way. So like when you're in Agile and you say you're refining stories and defining epics and all that other good stuff, there should be a change manager involved in those discussions. So typically not so much at a story level, though if there's training involved, a change manager would be involved with, hey, this is what's coming up in this. So they're involved in making sure that is that there's training, but definitely at the epic level, a change, if you have a change manager should be available, and working at that level to say, okay, as a part of this epic we need to do, these are the change activities we need to do, include within this piece of work. So yeah, lean change management's become a very new thing in the past few 2 or 3 years. Actually, it's very young. I think it's been mostly kind of driven and launched by Canada and the US, so it's fairly new to Australia. But yeah, it fits well. It's usually not in as depth, say, as a very large change, but it's still definitely involved.
We have another comment from Heath here. In the old school engineering world, change management existed to control the changes to a product based in requirement design, etc. It involves stakeholder agreements, but its wax is here just managing documents and core versions. Organizational change was the province of senior leadership, and process change the province of engineering management.
Yeah, so one of the things, when I tell people about being a change manager, I've noticed this too in my last company. They said, oh, and they thought it was change control. So like a change control, like you have to go through a change, you're making a change to the tech side of things, and you're having to go through this whole change control process of, what's the impacts to the project, yada, 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 yada. That's not that. So that's a tech change control process. Where this is change management that is solely focused on the people side of things. So I hope that kind of addresses that.
yeah.
But yeah, they do get confused.
And I guess, I'm cautious about the time as well. So we're already getting past like 45 minutes of our live stream. And I know we can talk for ages, but let's be cautious about the time. There is one more question we wanted to address, before kind of wrapping up. Obviously for the people who are listening now, hopefully get a bit of a, overall understanding, what actually change manager does. But how people can get into change management. Yeah. So obviously, is it a good career choice? You went through your journey through, delivery and life coaching, but I don't know, who do you think should consider the change management role, and what's, I guess, just a few brief tips about how you think people can get into it?
Yeah, I think the main thing is if you have a passion for people, it's going to put this throw this out there, injustice or any of that kind of thing. If you have a passion for people, then change management really is a good place to go. So from experience, when you're looking at going into a change management role, a lot of roles are looking for project and delivery management because you have to have an understanding of how projects work. And so most job descriptions will say has experience in project and delivery. And then also agile coaching, because it brings in agile coaches spend a lot of time on the people side of things as well, hopefully. So we're talking about ways of working and the processes that go around that, and how those processes, how people uptake and how people learn and develop so they can actually do those types of processes. And then there's a humanistic experience. So, the whole thing around, change is people. At the end of the day, it's people. So, your tech is a tool, and your people have to be able to take on that tool. They have to know how to use it and want to use it. So the humanistic side. So someone who really wants to go into change management, I highly recommend going in and doing some coaching training, some basic psychology training would really help in that area. And then there's a couple certifications. There's the APMG International. They're the ones that created the Change Management Book of Knowledge. So it was, I think, if I remember correctly, it was 50 change practitioners around the world that came together and wrote the book. It's filled with tools, techniques, and a whole bunch of really cool stuff. There's a couple certifications there. And then there's PRESI. PRESI is known for the ADKAR. People go ahead and Google that. But that's really their framework. And PRESI is out of America, as I recall. So it's quite a bit more pricey, but it's really highly renowned. So that's another good one to get into, because a lot of the change management roles are looking for people that have the certifications, because there's a lot of psychology and frameworks behind all of this, and knowing what to use when, really will help.
We just have a quick comment from Heath. He just pointing out how overloaded terms are.
I agree. I agree, Heath.
There is so many definitions of delivery management as well, so we're not even gonna go in there today.
Yeah, when you look at change, oh my goodness, it's. I was at one company, and the guy, he's like, I'm not a product owner, I'm a product manager, I'm a PM, and I'm like, okay, a PM. He's like, no, not to be mistaken with a project manager. I'm like, what do you mean, a portfolio manager? He's like. I was like, and I started to list off all the different acronyms that come with PM, and he was like, oh, I know, I'm so confused.
And Brella, I have one more question for actually, guys. If you have last question to Brella, quickly type it in, because we're obviously about to wrap up our live stream.
But I have my cat's getting down here, and she keeps wanting to come up.
It's okay. She can come up. She can say hi. What's actually when you transitioned to change management, what was the biggest challenge for you?
I think the biggest challenge, I've heard this in all of your podcasts, to be honest. I mean, you guys would probably, so if I said it to the audience, say, hey, put in the channel, what you think is the biggest challenge, I'm pretty sure they probably all come up with the same answer. Cat tax. Okay. I'll get it over here. It happens to be, senior leadership is always going to be, the biggest challenge. I mean, really, because when you're talking about people, convincing them that, hey, your people need the time and the space in order to take on this change, and they're like, well, no, we can't impact, our daily work. And it's like, well, it takes time to learn. It takes time, to take on any sort of something new that you learn, because, we look at the other tools to talk about, unconscious and conscious, learning styles and such. It takes a while to hit mastery. And what, not ever really in change management, we're not looking for mastery. That usually happens later on, but we're looking for that intermediate level, and that takes time to get people up to speed. So the biggest challenge is really getting senior leadership on board that change in people takes time, and the more you involve them, the less time it takes, but that involvement takes time away from people's day jobs.
Yep. No, 100%, and definitely
Hold
takes.
On, I'll get the cat.
Is a cat coming? Here. Cat coming? Yes.
You can. Okay, 1 second.
Guys, while Brella getting her cat, you have a chance to ask last question. Oh my God! Look at that. Oh, that's what we like about live streams. We like surprises. I don't think.
Okay, that was a cat tax there. So that's Tabitha.
There you go.
She's
hello.
Photobombing all through work. Okay, off we go, because I know people have got other things to do tonight.
Cat's important. Okay, so Brella, I guess it's the time to wrap up, and I'm just gonna announce the topics for next week while you gonna choose the winner of our giveaway. Yes, so the giveaway is usual at the moment. Now, most of the time, my giveaway on the live streams, it's a 30 minutes virtual coffee chat with our speaker, so you can have a chance to ask more questions on the topic, or just have a good chat about the IT industry in general. So, and good opportunity to network. So while Brella is speaking,
I'm just gonna say, while you're doing that, put in channel if you're really keen to learn more about change management. So I know who to pick from.
Here we go. That's a good one, guys. If you're still listening to us and you really want to learn more about change management, quickly comment so the Brella can pick you.
I'm including you in the decision. This is all about change management.
Yeah. So you're not forced to have a virtual coffee with Brella. You have you influence that decision. Don't be shy.
Absolutely.
Don't be shy. So, and next Wednesday, 20th of April, we're going to talk about do's and don'ts of landing your next IT job with Sean. So I know it's kind of coming after a long weekend, but guys, especially those who I guess looking for a job at the moment, will be a great topic for you next Wednesday, 20th of April. And then on the 27th of April, we're going to talk about testing career. Yeah, so is it a good career choice in IT industry? So make sure to tune in in 2 weeks if you considering the career in testing or QA. So, Brella, no one got
I know.
We have to force people. We have to force people,
I guess we're going to have to force change on them. Oh, dear.
I think we have to force a change on them. So who we have there? So we have quite a few people. So, you have a bit of a choice there who you can pick.
Yeah, I think I'll go, I was doing a rock, paper, scissors here, trying to make this fair as possible because they're all really good comments and questions.
It's not fair, okay? Don't forget, the live stream life is not fair.
Oh, we got a new comment. I'm on the other side, definitely for Dev's side, so it's not actually that relevant.
So Jason's saying I'm not on the other side, definitely for Dev's side. So it's not actually relevant to me. Could be still fine. But Jason won previous live,
yeah, he did. So how about is it Smail?
Smail?
Yeah.
Smail. Here we go. Smail. If you're still with us on the live stream, you are the winner of the virtual coffee with Brella. So say hi if you're still with us. Otherwise, I'll connect you on LinkedIn. There you go. So, and we have 2 minutes to wrap it up. So we need to make sure we.
I love Jason. We should connect Jason anyways. Connect with me on LinkedIn. I'd love to have a chat too.
Here we go. The extra giveaway today for Jason. Here we go. You see, it doesn't need to be one giveaway. It could be two. As I said, there's no rules. Yeah, it's my YouTube channel. I create rules as I want to.
As a change manager, I'd love to talk with all of you. So.
And I'm not including people in the change. I just change the rules as I go because I'm the only person in my organization. Yeah. If I want to put Windows 11 on my computer, I'll put it wherever I want to put it.
You're not going to be forced to do it.
I'm not going to be forced to do it. Anyway, Smail is here. Thank you, Smail. So I'll make sure I'll connect with you. And Xin, sorry, I think I saw your message before. I'll get back to you. That's not related to this live stream. Okay, that's a good reminder. Thank you for reminding me on the live stream. So, okay, oh my God, we have 30 seconds. Okay, Brella, just to finish this live stream, your favorite inspirational quote.
Oh my God. Okay, well, I've already given it to you. So it's people don't resist change; they resist being changed.
100%. And think about your previous relationship. Then you're thinking about
your worst relationship. You're probably being forced to change.
And then you know what a change manager does. Imagine same relationship. You're in the same relationship, but you don't feel that you need to change. How good that would be, yeah? So we leave you with this thought. Next time you're in a relationship, don't try to change anyone. Here we go.
Thank you, everyone. It's been a pleasure this evening.
Thank you so much, Brella. And I'll see everyone next Wednesday at 5:30. Thank you.